Alright guys, there she is with the stunt cage installed. I just took the bike out to get better lighting, so hopefully you guys can see better. That's how it looks. I really like the look of this cage from the back, like from the sides like this. It gives the bike very nice look. From the front you can't actually tell that there's any difference almost, I feel like, but from the side looks pretty awesome. I like the look of this cage overall. I really like the welds on this as well. Let me go to the other side. Better light maybe. So the welds on this are really nice. Overall this cage looks like a quality build for sure. I did have to paint the knobs here matte black so they match better with the cage itself. The ones that came with it were like gray teal type of color, which didn't really match. So there's that, some custom work, but overall pretty happy with how it sits. So here you can see the reservoir has been relocated right there. So let's see if you can get a better angle here. The relocation of the reservoir is one of the things I'm not entirely happy with, and I'm gonna tell you why. So the OEM mounting for this, there's two mounting points. One is this screw right here, and they do, this company that makes this cage, I forgot who they are, but it'll probably gonna be in the title of this video. They give you this screw, they give you this bracket to relocate it, and it works, as you can see. But the only thing I'm not happy with is there's a second mounting point right here. This is where the reservoir was actually sliding into as well. So I think that was to help with vibration. So you can see there's some vibration here for sure, because the only mounting point that's left right now is this bolt. Okay, so I may look into something to kind of fabricate something that will help reduce that vibration in the long term, but for now that's how I'm gonna leave it. I'm also gonna keep an eye on that reservoir, make sure it's not gonna melt or anything like that. It seems to be okay. It seems to be pretty much, the distance between the engine did not reduce much. I may put some tin foil there maybe, I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on that. That's pretty much it. So the knobbies, they don't match color, and the reservoir relocation. So instructions are also kind of shitty. So I had to figure everything out myself. So that's actually the point of this video, is to kind of walk you through right now during daytime. I'm just gonna walk you through kind of step by step, if I were to install this again, how I would go about it. Because and then I'll show you the video that I filmed in the garage actually doing it. But the reason I wanted to give you this step by step prior is so it's a little bit clearer, because in the garage I actually had to figure everything out myself as I went installing it, so there were some mistakes made. So alright, so the number one thing you want to start with is you want to take off this plastic guards. Okay, there's two bolts, one here, one here. You take them off, you pull this up, and then it pops out from like a plastic rivet right here. So you just pull it up and you take it off. That's going to expose some of the internals here. Then on the other side you want to do the same. There's two bolts right here. Again, you take them off, you pull it up, it pops out, you take it off. So when you do that, it will expose this bolt right here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a bolt right there. It will expose that bolt. You want to take that bolt out as well. That will loosen, I think this is the injectors. I'm not a mechanic, so don't quote me on this, but I think this is fuel injectors. But it will basically give you a little play here, because you will need it in order to take off this bolt. And I really don't know if you guys can see it, but this bolt runs, it's across, it's a bolt that runs across through the engine mounting point here from this side. Yeah, it's really hard to see, but that's that bolt. That's that bolt right there. That's where it comes out. So you loosen the bolt for the injectors right here, and you want to loosen this cover right here. So it has 3 bolts. There's one here, and one down. Now this cover you won't be able to take off, but just loosen it. Don't lose the bolts, just leave it here. As long as there's like play in this cover, you'll be able to get a socket to that nut right there. So yeah, you want to use socket on this side, and then you want to use a wrench on this side to unscrew that bolt. So the first thing you want to do is install these brackets that they give you. Those black brackets with the larger nuts. So they give you 3 brackets. 2 of them are like these, which go here. They have the larger nut to screw in this frame when you put it up. And then one, it has a smaller nut. That's for your reservoir. So it's going to be this bracket here. So you're going to unscrew that bolt. You're going to take the bolt, the long bolt that they gave you, and you're going to replace the bolt that's the factory bolt there. You're going to mount those brackets on them. Secure it pretty well. I'd say secure it quite good, just enough so you can kind of move the bracket a little bit. Okay, not too much, but just so you can wiggle it just enough to line it with the frame. Now to tighten it, tightening that bolt is going to be tricky, because once you put this bracket on and you can't really tighten this until you actually mount this guy up here. So this will pretty much not allow you to get a wrench in there unless you have something small that can like bend from like this side. So you'll be left with the only option to tighten it, basically with a socket from the other side. Before the bolt starts rotating, you can just give it a very swift turn, and a couple of those will actually tighten it pretty well. So once you have your brackets on there, the next thing to do is to relocate your reservoir. Okay, and there's a couple things you want to do for that. So the biggest deal with the reservoir is this hose. You can see I routed mine above the frame slider bolt here. Just runs above and down. So to do that, you'll need to take this cap off, and you'll need to loosen some of the clamps that hold that line. Once you loosen them, you can just take the cap off, routed above into the reservoir, and then you put. So you'll need to also get this bracket on before you start relocating it. So you unscrew this one bolt, and you take the bracket that they gave you right here, you put that on there, and then you screw the reservoir in with the bolt that they supplied. So if you try to use the factory bolt, it's not going to work. You have to use the bolt that they actually gave you. So that's that. Also, when mounting this, what I did, I mounted the welds facing inside the bike, and I mounted the clean kind of good looking sides facing out. So just FYI. I don't think you have to do it that way. This is just how I did it, and it seems to be working. So the next, once you relocate the reservoir from here, it should be pretty straightforward. All you do is you remove your frame sliders, bolts that from here, and I would do one side at a time. Don't do both sides. Remove one side. If you end up doing both sides, your engine may actually sag. That's what happened to me. Your engine may sag, and then you'll need like a jack to put under right here to kind of jack it up a little bit, just enough so you have the bolts can go back in, like thread back in, because when the engine drops, it creates just enough displacement there that the bolts don't go in anymore, like 2 millimeters. So just FYI, if you're doing it one side at a time, you should not have this problem. So yeah, unscrew the bolt, put the cage on there, thread the, okay, they also give you spacers, so the spacers will go inside here. Put the spacer in, thread the bolt back in, don't thread it tight. Then make sure you get this bolt started as well to the bracket that you installed before. And then there is a crossbar that they also give you, which you can also kind of run through this guy. So you can run it through the exhaust. I have a crap image of it on this bike, so it clears it. You can see there's no problem. If you have stock, obviously it should clear it. If you have another exhaust, I don't really know if it's going to clear it. I would imagine it will. So yeah, you put the bar, there's a smaller bolt that they actually give you that goes inside here, so you thread that in. Don't tighten anything, just leave it kind of on there, and then you do the same thing on the other side. So you'll take this off, the frame slider bolt off, you're going to put the spacer in, you're going to put the cage in, thread it in. Also, you're going to start this bolt here, don't tighten anything, and then you're going to start the bolt on the crossbar. Make sure it all lines up, make sure your reservoir is not being pinched, and then start tightening everything. So from there, once you have everything tightened, it's basically just putting everything back together. So you'll want to make sure you don't forget to tighten that bolt, the cross bolt. Once you have the cage tightened, the next thing to do is tighten that bolt with a socket from this side. You can try to get a wrench in there if you have something that will fit. So once this is tight, just put back all the covers, and that should be good. It's a pretty quick install. I'd say maybe an hour. Like if I knew what I was doing from the beginning, if there was a video or something, probably would take me an hour to do it, because there's not much to take off, and the installing it is actually not that difficult. The most difficult part is getting these brackets in, just because there's no space to work, and relocating the reservoir. So for me, because I had to figure everything out myself, it took about 3 hours to do. So again, this is how it looks, and I'll play you guys the actual video of me installing it now from last night, so you can see, and maybe if this wasn't helpful, what I just went over, maybe that video is going to be more helpful to you. Alright, make sure to subscribe and like if it helped you. Look at all this shit. This is what I'm working on right now. So we're trying to install this bars. Who the hell made them? R-Gaza, that's who made it. They tell you to start from the right side. So I just kind of test fitted the right side on the bike here. Now, the instructions that come with it, they're not super clear. Like, they're okay, They give you general idea of like what to do, but they're not super clear, especially the writing. So the picture is actually kind of helpful, but whatever is written on them is like not helpful at all. So basically, let me see. I'll explain to you guys how I understand how it should be mounted. Again, instruction is not very helpful, so I don't know if I'm 100% correct, but you got your frame slider bolt right here, so you need to take that out, and then basically you take it out, and they supply you with a spacer. So they give you a spacer, they give you a washer, they give you the bolt. Okay, so you take that, you put your spacer in first, right, and then you get your cage, and then this bolt goes on the other side, so it goes through the cage and then threads into goes through the washer and then threads into your mounting hole here. So that's how you initially mount it. Okay. Now, next step, which I haven't done yet, is you come over here to all your tools and you look for a bracket. So they give you 2 of these brackets. Both of them have a bigger hole. So there's a nice welds, by the way, on this thing. Look at it. Pretty nice welds. So anyway, so you find 2 brackets like this one. And there's another bracket similar to this one, but with a small hole. That's your relocation for your reservoir, I think. Okay. At the moment, I'm not sure actually if that's going to be needed. Here, I'll show you that real quick. So you will need to relocate your reservoir, which is right here. Okay, so there's a bolt that connects it right here, and then you just wiggle it off, and it comes off. Right now, I'm not gonna take it off because I have a pipe here, and that's the pipe actually that's supposed to run from the right side to the left side and connect with the left side here. So you're basically gonna they give you a bolt, this guy. So they give you a bolt like this. You take that bolt and you shove it right there, right? And then you screw it in to the pipe, and the pipe runs straight through. Now, I did unscrew my reservoir, thinking I need to relocate it, but the bracket they gave, and this is actually the bracket, I already put it on here. This is the bracket, so there's a smaller hole, and they give you a screw also that will go in here. So the idea is to take that reservoir and move it up, but it actually blocks it. It blocks the pipe more. So I'm going to try to go ahead and mount it this way. Now, if you have an older model, maybe you do need to relocate it. I'm not sure. This is a 2022. So for 2022, I think it's going to mount this way. The biggest deal at the moment is getting to this bolt right here. Trying to give some light there. See that bolt right there? The shiny one? So we need to get to that bolt. We need to unscrew it. That bolt goes all the way through to the other side. So if we go on the other side, take a look here. This is the end of the bolt. So we need to take it out. And my understanding is we need to take it out and we need to use the bolt that they give you, which is this one, which I think is just a little bit longer. than the other one. And we need to run it through. And then we need to take these two brackets and we need to mount each one of them kind of like this. One here, I don't know if you can see it. One kind of like this. And then one similarly on the other side. So one will go on the other side here. I don't know if I can stick it in. So this is going to be a bitch to put in. I can already feel there's not much space to work. I've unscrewed the bolt right here to kind of get a little bit of wiggle room here. And yeah, so I'm going to try to undo this bolt and put the other one in and put these brackets in and then see if this bracket will actually connect over to this guy, which is supposed to be kind of like this. This is my understanding. Okay. So, alright, I'll see you in a bit. Alright guys, so it's very difficult to actually get to that bolt. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take this cover off. So it looks like there's 3 bolts like these. So I'm just using a screwdriver. Alright, so you'll need a 14mm wrench and a 14mm socket to get that bolt out of there. Okay, one more thing I forgot to mention, there was a plastic piece right here. I took this piece off, so I think it threads. There's one bolt goes here, one bolt goes here, it just covers this piece. This plastic piece, I can't actually take it out. I mean, I don't want to damage it or scratch it, so it's kind of snug in there. So I just loosened it, and I think it should give me just enough space here to work. Alright, I'm trying to pull this bolt out at this point. So I'm going to set the camera there. If you can see it, you can see it. If not, then I'm sorry, but I need my 2 hands here. There we go. So, alright, happy to report I'm alive. The engine did not fall on my face. So this is the bolt. Let's go compare this with what they gave us. So let's see. Alright, so what they gave us is slightly bigger, just ever slightly bigger. Alright, so now I'm gonna take this bolt and I'm gonna try to install the brackets and go from there. Alright guys, checking in again. Still don't know what I'm doing, but this is how it looks at this point. So we got the brackets on there. I tighten it, but not too tight, still a little bit loose. This one's still loose. I'm just gonna leave it that way. So I'm gonna try to test fit it. This bracket I'm gonna take off probably, but I'm gonna leave it there for now. I'm gonna test fit everything. If this works, then all I'll need to do is just take this bracket off and tighten everything. And that's it. All right. Show you how this side looks. So this side is actually super tight to get to. The bolts that they give you, they're a little bit bigger, so you'll need a 17mm. I have an 18mm on this side because I don't have a 17, and I'm using a 17mm socket on the other side because it's easier to get the socket in. To this one, you can barely stick that wrench in. So yeah, and definitely pro tip, you will need to loosen this bolt. Without it, you can't take that bolt out and you can't put it back in. And you can't put the brackets in. So just FYI. Alright, so this is what you call great success. At least on this side right here. They did line up, so I'm just trying to see if I can screw them in. So left side had a little issue. If you look over there where the frame slider bolt is, it did not align perfectly. So I had to put jack under it. Just enough to push the engine up just a little bit so it aligns again. Entire cage is on, it's tightened from both sides. I know the lighting is kind of shitty. My battery is dying in my headlamp also, but everything went on as I expected. And the tube is on, like under the exhaust. You kind of see it runs down. Now the problem that I have at the moment, the last problem, is the relocation for this reservoir. As you can see, the cap is kind of popped, so, and it's not tightened yet. So I'm trying to get the wires, I don't know if you guys can even see this, I'm trying to get the wires from under here, trying to free them up. I really should have done it before I put the cage up. I freed up one clamp up here. There's one more clamp underneath, like right behind this bar. I don't know if you can see that. So see, this clamp right here is the one I freed up, and then there's one more. There's this sucker right here that I still need to free up. Once I free that up, I think the wire will be able to flow freely, and I can put the cap back on and maybe zip tie it in a different position or something. But I think that's basically gonna be it once that is done. Alright guys, pretty much done. But I don't like those bobbins, is what they call them, the bar ends. That's supposed to go on the sides there. There's two each. The reason I don't like them is the color is off. It's like gray, like weird gray, definitely not black, so it doesn't match the crash cage at all. So I'm just gonna sand them a little bit and hit them with matte black paint. Alright, sanded the bobbins, those little bar ends. Not too much, just enough for the paint to grab on. So now I'm gonna take some of this to it, and yeah, once the finished product is done, I'll show you guys the bike.